Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Japan once again. As you may have guessed by my shirt, a lovely present from my girlfriend at Christmas time of course, and this is another present that she gave me. We're going to return to Baird Beer, and today we're having a taste of their West Coast wheat wine, which comes in at 10%. This beer should be pretty good. We know that Baird Beer produced some pretty good stuff as well, but this one was rated 88 overall on Rate Beer, and I think it was about 55 or something like that within the style, of course. They don't have a wheat wine category on Rate Beer, they've only got the barley wine category, of course. Sometimes these beers are called white barley wines, of course, but it's a style that isn't as common actually. I've actually seen more wheat wines from Japan than I have from America, which is kind of strange, but this beer style is supposed to have come from the Rubicon Brewery pub in Sacramento in California. There's a little bit on Baird's website that will tell you about that actually, but quite an interesting beer, and definitely looking forward to trying this one for you on the channel. So yeah, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other beer reviews that I've done before. No doubt I'll be able to add more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Japanese beers that I've reviewed, and as always, do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review, especially if you're watching in Japan. But your support of the channel and your input is always hugely appreciated. And if you're particularly interested in Japanese beer, do make sure you go and check out Casey and Eric at Sotogami Akihabe. They're two American guys in Tokyo, and they've got a really nice channel. A shout out to my friend Koji at Liquor Store Asahiya in Taishibashi, Maichi, Osaka. That's of course where Michiko got this beer. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about Baird Beer then. So as I mentioned to you, Baird Beer are from Numazu in Shizuoka Prefecture near Mount Fuji in Japan, and this is a city that's really quite well known for its countryside and its hot springs. I need to go and check it out sometime actually, but the company is led by American Brian Baird along with his wife Sayuri, and it was founded back in 2000. So Brian had actually attended Johns Hopkins University over in America, and he'd taken part in a Japan studies program and did some work for an American firm in Tokyo, and while he was there he really noticed that G beer, or local beer, was getting much attention in Japan, and he'd always been interested in beer. So when he returned to America, he later attended a brewing school in California, and he completed an apprenticeship at Red Hood Brewery up in Seattle in Washington State. So they actually chose Numazu for the brewery because Brian's job with brewing equipment had taken him there, and he says that now they enjoy that this region has very soft water, which is of course quite good for brewing. And apparently much of the G beer in Japan in the late 90s, despite the industry booming, it wasn't just of such great quality, to be honest. So Brian really wanted to introduce the American beer styles into Japan, which they really have done quite successfully actually, and their beers proved very, very popular in Numazu, and they later kind of expanded their brewery into Tokyo and things as well, and they are of course doing very well. These guys are probably one of the better known craft breweries from Japan, but they now have several tap rooms. This includes the original one at the Numazu Fish Market, and they also have one at their they also have a new brewery in Izu as well, which I believe is still in Shizuoka Prefecture. But they've got pubs in Shibuya and Tokyo. This one's the Harajuku, which does Japanese food. They've also got the Meguru, which does beer and pizza, and these are both in Tokyo, like I said. And they also have one in Yokohama, which is called Bashamichi, and this one is an American slow grill. But these guys are quite a prolific brewery. I do have a list of some of the different beers that they've done. They've got a regular range and a seasonal range. This beer, I should point out, is one of the seasonal range, but in their year-round beers they've got the single take session ale, the Wheat King Wit, the Shuzenji Heritage Helles, Numazu Lager, Rising Sun Pale Ale, the Wabi Sabi Japan Pale Ale, one that I'd really like to try actually, the Red Rose Amber Ale, Angry Boy Brown Ale, Teikoku IPA, which I've reviewed for you before, the Suguru Bay Imperial IPA, which is another one I want to review, the Shimaguni Stout, and also the Korofune Porter as well. So they've got quite a few different ones, and as you've seen, they do have seasonal beers as well. I reviewed the Temple Garden Yuzu Ale for you the first time. That was one of the Baird beers that appeared here in Sweden, of course. And since then I've reviewed the Yabai Yabai, the Scotch ale, which was quite nice actually, and now we have this one here. So yeah, that's enough about the brewery just now. As I say, if you want to learn more about Baird Beer, go and check out the brewery website in the description below. Follow them on Facebook, of course, and you can keep up to date with things like the seasonal releases and the one-off brews that they do as well. They do actually have quite a few one-off brews. As I said, Koji, my friend at liquor store Asahiya, he seems to get quite a few random beers in from Baird, so they're always producing different stuff, so keep an eye on their Facebook page and you will be able to see all these different things. So anyway, just to tell you a little bit about this beer itself then, so like I mentioned, this one is a 10% wheat wine. I've also seen this style of beer called white barley wine, and like I was mentioning at the start of the video, this is a style that is actually born over in California in America. It's from the Rubicon Brew Pub in Sacramento. There's a little bit on Baird's website about this as well, but it was from there, and instead of using barley in the malt base, they use wheat, and it's quite interesting. I've not seen too many American wheat wines. I would love to try them if they are kind of still producing them, but I've seen more of these in Japan. The other one that springs to mind that you can get over there is the El Angel, or El Agnel from St. Gallen Brewery. They're another really good Japanese craft brewery, by the way, but this one should be really interesting for us to try. So the hops in this one are Warrior, Citra, Galena and Centennial, and it's got a malt base of Maris Otter, Pilsen and wheat malts, and they've also added some Japanese unmalted wheat to this one, and it uses a Scottish ale yeast strain, so it should be a really quite interesting one. This, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. Then let me bring the camera up for you again. There you can see the kind of typical Baird Beer artwork on this one. I have to admit, Baird Beer have some really pretty damn awesome artwork actually. It reminds me a lot of these kind of the sort of war propaganda posters and things like that. The artwork on this really does remind me of that. There you can see the Baird Beer bottle cap on this, really nicely presented, and you know, this is of course what makes Baird Beers really distinctive. So yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. Looking forward to this beer. So yeah, nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And I tell you something, just with opening up the bottle there, you can smell quite a lot of nice juicy fruits. It's a kind of peary, sort of peach apricot-y thing that's coming out of the nose of this one as I pour it into the glass. But as you can see, this beer's poured a really nice, kind of quite rich orangey amber colour. It's a bit brighter, I think, than you're seeing on the camera. Maybe the light's just not hitting it properly. There's a few big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. There's a nice sort of hazy character to this beer. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see there is a little bit of transparency, but the beer really is quite opaque. That head is just faded away to a very thin foamy layer, but it was a kind of creamy colour, just about a quarter of a finger or something like that, but that has faded away really quite quickly. But you can smell these nice kind of juicy, almost marmaladey fruits coming off this one. So let's have a closer look at the aroma of this and see how we get on then. It's a really interesting aroma. It's really not too kind of punchy at all. It's a very mild aroma that's coming off this one for me. But you can pick up some of the bready and yeasty character. Definitely that sort of wheaty spice coming out of this one. There's a bit of caramel, you know, sort of biscuity. It reminds me of digestive biscuits actually, the notes that you're getting off of this one. I don't know if you get those in Japan right enough, or even America. But it reminds me of these digestive biscuits that you get back home in Scotland. It really reminds me of that. There is an element of richer caramel to the beer as well. Brown sugar sort of thing in there. It does have a little bit of toasted character, but overall you can detect that underpinning the beer, but on top of that there's quite a bit of fruity character. This is a really kind of unusual smelling beer, this one. So take a little bit of time really with this and enjoy the aroma of it. That's always half the experience with craft beer, of course. But yeah, there's a sort of peary note coming out of this one. That'll be from the Galena, of course. The Galena hop gives you some really kind of interesting fruity notes to the beer. It gives you this sort of peary and kind of almost apricot-y notes to the beer. So there's definitely some apricots in there as well. There's a little bit of a gooseberry character, I think, coming out too, and that can be from the Citra or the Galena. Citra can give you, usually it gives you nice kind of light tropical notes, but sometimes it can give you that sort of gooseberry note as well, and I can definitely pick up a little bit of that in here. So pears, gooseberries, there's a little bit of a sort of peachy apricot note to this beer as well, and you can pick up a little bit of floral character as well. That will probably be the Centennial, I would think, giving you that Centennial's got this really quite distinctive floral character to it, and you can pick that up in this beer a little bit. And there's a bit of kind of lighter grassiness in there as well, so there's something coming out from each of the hops in this one. The Warrior, of course, usually gives you a little bit of pine resin, but also some kind of floral sort of grassy character as well. So I guess it's the Centennial and the Warrior that are giving you this nice sort of grassy and floral base that the beer has. So yeah, it smells really quite interesting, this one. It's quite unusual, and like I said, I really can't think of any wheat wines or white barley wines that I've had that actually come from the States, to be honest with you. We're getting quite a few white sort of wheat double IPAs and things like that in Europe just now, but I can't think of any wheat wines that I've had from over there, which is it's quite interesting. I maybe have had one or two that I just can't remember, but I do definitely think this wheat wine style is a bit more popular in Japan than it is over in America or even here in Europe. So yeah, if you get the chance to go over to Japan, try this one from Baird, or the El Añel from St. Gallen, of course. But this should be really nice. So let's get stuck into this beer then. This one's the West Coast Wheat Wine, 10% white barley wine or wheat wine, however you want to describe it, from Baird Beer in Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan. Once again, thank you to Michiko for bringing me this beer for Christmas. Kanpai. That's nice. That is a really quite nice beer, this one, I have to admit. Definitely, you know, it's something just a little bit different. It's really just completely different from some of the other stuff that I've had before. It's a really interesting beer, this one, so if you get the chance to try it, give it a go. It's always, as I say, as a beer reviewer, you know, when you've reviewed like 950 beers, it's you know, it's always interesting to try something that is just a little bit different. Yeah, I'd maybe even go as far as saying that that's the best beer that I've tried from Baird so far. The other ones have been good, but to me this one just stands out a little bit more, maybe just because it is a little bit different from what you would normally have. But this is a pretty good beer, so if you see it, give it a go. I'm not sure how easy it is to get this beer in other countries in Europe. We do get some of the Baird beers here in Sweden, but they are fairly easy to come across in Japan if you go to a craft beer shop. But with this one, it's really interesting. The malt base has a very interesting feel to it. It actually feels, as you progress into the aftertaste, it feels really quite toasted actually. So you can feel this sort of pale malt character just blanketing the bottom of the tongue, and then there's the sort of heavier wheaty notes just on top of that. There's quite a bit of caramel, and toasted caramel at that, and there's some lighter sort of biscuity grains on there on top. The malt base on this one, it feels kind of sort of gloopy a little bit. It's a sort of thicker, kind of almost syrupy malt base coming out of this beer, which is quite interesting, and it's just the way that the sort of wheaty, bready malts mix in with this beer that's really quite interesting. Yeah, it's really quite a sweet malt base, this one. It's really is quite an interesting beer, this. I've not really had anything quite like it that I can think of. I haven't tried that El Añel from St. Gallen that I was talking about, so I need to try that one after reviewing this beer. But this is nice. So on the hoppy side of things, the hops are actually quite mild in this beer. I think there's a little bit of earthy, just a tiny little bit of earthiness in the back corner of the palate, but as you come further forward it becomes more floral, and it's quite a smooth floral character, I think, this one. As you go round the front curve of the palate, it's a bit lighter and a bit grassy. I'm not getting any of the kind of pine resins that you'd normally get from the Warrior. To me, this beer definitely strikes me as more of a floral, and quite a smooth kind of floral character. That it's not herbal, it's definitely just got a floral character to it, and it's interesting because the floral aspects of this beer that are coming out, they remind me of kind of German noble hops rather than the sort of spicy floral character that you get from American hops. So that's another interesting point to make about this one. But yeah, this is nice. Definitely give this beer a go for yourself. The fruity side of this beer is kind of interesting as well. It's definitely the sort of lighter fruits that you're getting out of this one. If you just go behind that front curve of the tongue there, that's where you're getting these little fruity esters that are coming out of this beer. So with this one, it's a sort of, it's very light on the kind of fruity side of things, you know. It is a little bit of this, there's a little bit of kind of peachy, apricot-y thing going on in this one. It's a little bit of a kind of, there's a wee tiny bit of citrus in there, the gooseberries are coming out as well. But it really is just a mild fruity character that's coming out of this one, you know. There's a sort of peary, apricot-y, kind of slightly peachy thing. Maybe not too much in the way of peach. Peach can be kind of quite sharp, but it's apricot and it's pears that for me are really dominating the fruity aspects of this beer. And it works really well with the way the kind of caramel and biscuity notes come out of this beer as well. This beer, you know, it's not too punchy in any certain aspect of the beer. I should point out that it does have a little bit of alcohol warmth. You'll feel that just down here. But this beer really isn't very punchy in any aspect of its flavour. It's more about how the flavour kind of blends together. And that, you know, that's typical of Japanese beer. I've said that in a few of these Japanese beer reviews. Japanese beers tend not to be very punchy with the hoppy bitterness or anything like that. And it's a reflection of Japanese food, because the foods tend to be more about how the flavour blends together. The Japanese, I think, probably have quite a mild palate in comparison to Westerners. Maybe that's a generalisation right enough, but at least that's kind of my take on it when I've been over there and tried these different beers. And that's the one thing I would say about the Baird beers a little bit, is that they have these American styles and all of the flavour elements are there, but you can see how they've been tuned just to suit the Japanese palate and the way the Japanese like their food. And that's probably why they've been so successful over there, to be honest. So it's quite an interesting thing, and it is interesting to try beers from different countries and pick up little traits like that. But for me, this is a really quite nice beer. In terms of recommending this to people, you know, it's a little bit difficult because, you know, there's nothing I've had that's really like this. If you were to class it in terms of a barley wine, if you like the English style barley wine, to me it's a bit closer to that than it is to the American one. And I always find that the English barley wines, they've got a little bit more earthiness to them and a bit more kind of brown bready character. This one is more like that, except it's a wheaty, sort of white bready character that's coming out of it. So overall, I would say this one is a bit more close to an English barley wine. So probably if you enjoy English barley wines, this is a beer that you probably will quite enjoy. If you like the American ones and you're wanting to try something a bit different, this is an interesting beer to try, but just be aware it might well not be what you're expecting. So, but a good point about this one, if you have tried some American wheat wines, I'd love to know what they are so I can look them up and see if I can get them. But for me, this is a really interesting beer, and it's worth trying because it's done very nicely, as you'd expect from Baird, but it's just a kind of different flavour combination, which keeps things interesting, you know. In terms of the mouthfeel of this beer, I'd say it's mid-bodied, maybe pushing the full-bodied category a little bit. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's a big oily mouthfeel, this one. There's a good kind of sweetness to the malt base in there. It's got a mixture of the kind of slightly thicker wheaty character. That makes it feel really quite thick, but it's also got that kind of oily sweetness from the caramel and the biscuit and things. Pardon me, the hops on this one, like I was saying, are really quite smooth, and the hops are just, the fruity side of the hops is just a little bit juicy. It's not very sharp and things like that as you'd expect from a normal barley wine. This one is more, as I was saying, leaning towards pears and apricots and peaches and things, and maybe a little bit of gooseberry as well. I'm not really getting the typical tropical fruits that you'd normally expect of the Citra hop. Yeah, really it's more kind of peaches, apricots and things like that. So it's a very smooth, kind of quite light fruity character that you're getting out of this one. But the main conclusion of this is that it has to be a good beer. There's a little bit of alcohol warmth from it as well. At 10%, you know, you would expect that, especially when it's a sort of barley wine, wheat wine kind of thing. But for me, it's a really quite nice beer, this, and it's different from the other things you're going to come across. So as I say, give it a go for yourself and see what you think. But the main conclusion of this review is that Baird Beer have produced another really quite good beer. So yeah, I want to try more of these wheat wines now. I'll need to look up more of them when I'm in Japan over the summer, but this has been another really nice beer to try from Baird. As I said, if you do come across the Baird beers, these guys are probably the best known craft brewery in Japan these days, along with Shiga Kogen and Fujizakura Heights. Izakadoya and St. Gallen and things like that. There's quite a few little Japanese craft breweries producing some good stuff, but Baird Beer do some pretty awesome stuff as well. So yeah, give it a go and see what you think for yourself. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Hopefully I can try more from Baird over the summer. I'd love to try their double IPA that they've got. I heard that's pretty good, and one of the stouts would be quite interesting as well to try. So hopefully I can try those for you over the summer. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media, but most importantly, try some of the Baird beers, and do give me some more recommendations for Japanese beers that you would like to see me review. Until the next time, Slanja just now, Kampai, and make sure you try it, the West Coast wheat wine from Baird Beer, especially if you enjoy the more English style of barley wines, and this is a really quite unusual style, so I think you will quite enjoy it. Until the next time, Slanja just now, Kampai.